Welcome to Shine Your Light,
a one-on-one show where we provide an individual with a platform to tell their truth.
They can talk about what they've been through and what they learned.
Or they can educate us about their area of expertise.
Sometimes you get Aaron, and sometimes you get Tim.
But you always get to be your own light. This week, we're joined by the radiant Matthew Ohrvall. How are you doing today, Matthew?
Hey, I am amazing.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. So, Matthew, can you kind of tell us what you want to be talking about today?
All right. Good, sir. First of all, thank you for having me. We're going to be talking about some thing called budgeting and financial planning.
That's something that even me in my 30s, I am not good at doing. And I've only recently realized that I needed to start working on that. So I feel like this is a very important topic. Like, most adults might not even know how to budget properly.
Dude, you have no idea how many people I've encountered over my years of doing this that literally say I'm X age and I don't know where my money goes. And it just blows my mind when you see some people who have so much potential just be so clueless in their finances, but yet be so great in something else that they're doing.
I mean, I could definitely understand that. I guess let's get a little bit of background. How long have you been working in financial planning and educating, and what is your exact level of expertise with this?
Yeah, so first, I guess we'll do a little disclosure, right? I'm not a certified financial person, so I don't have any official certifications, but I do teach financial on the Navy level. I'm certified by the Navy to teach the sailors how to handle their finances through the Navy standards. I do follow a plan. It's called the Ramsey Solutions Plan. It is by a guy named Dave Ramsey. He's been doing financial literacy for about 30 years now, and he has a great story. He went from millionaire to bankrupt, and then now he's back to multimillionaire. His method is a little controversial to a lot of people in the society. It's some things you might hear today you might not agree with, and the people that are listening might not agree with, but it's kind of what he preaches and what he suggests other people to follow. Yeah, he teaches a class called Financial Peace University. Financial peace, two words that don't go well together
Financial Peace University. So what makes the Ramsey solution so controversial? Is there a better place to start when talking about the Ramsey solution?
Tim, the biggest thing that Dave teaches is that you are in control of your wealth. And the most controversial part about it is that he wants you to do it with zero debt. He wants you to do it God and grandma's way of how they teach you. The Bible teaches you that you should be a slave to nobody, and that includes car lenders, mortgage companies, credit card companies. And your greatest wealth building tool is your income. So when you get loans and distribute out the money that you work so hard for and give it to other people, it steals from you, man.
Okay. I mean, I can definitely understand that. I know that there's a lot of talk in the financial community. I am by no means educated in financing whatsoever. I've been on the Wall Street bets that, people have frequented in their time. I've touched a little bit of stock trading, and honestly, I hated it. It's too much stress for me, and I couldn't do it myself. I kind of gave up on it.
Yeah, and that's only one aspect of his philosophy. And honestly, it's mainly what he teaches is all about behavior change. It's getting control of your financial situation, because as we've talked about before, man, there's typically four walls in your life. You have the mental life, you have the physical, you have the spiritual, and then there's also the fourth one. It's the financial. If those are all not in line, you're gonna be struggling.
That's super fascinating, because Aaron and I have talked a lot on our main show about the mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of your life and how you need to be actually taking care of those and enhancing those in order to live a healthy life. We never really considered financial to be the fourth aspect to add into that.
Yeah, it literally creates a financial burden. Like, imagine a boulder on you, and the more debt and the more money stress you have, the bigger that boulder is. So by getting control of it and eliminating and start chiseling away at all that stuff that's stressing you out financially will free up your life and make you think better, clearer. And you'll be able to have fun with your money instead of giving it out to everybody.
Especially to the banks. The banks,
Yeah.
the car loans,
Yeah,
and
and
all those awful things that you have to pay for.
yeah, man.
I think a great thing to start talking about is whenever you're sitting down with somebody to help them budget, where do you start?
Well, we're just going to stick to non-Navy traditions, right? So there's a fine line between, because I'm in the Navy like you, Tim, and there's a fine line between what we have to teach and what we want to teach, right?
Right.
So with this interview that we're doing, I'm going to tell you what I personally think you should be doing. And then also caveating that with the Dave Ramsey method, and which is what I follow to this day. And I've been following this method for the last 7 years. And my wife and I were doing what normal Americans do. We had car debt, we had credit cards, we wanted a house, we wanted, we're like, oh, we have to build our financial score, we have to do it. But back in 2017, we found this program and I decided to hop on board, man. And it took a while. It took a long time for us to get out of debt. It took us about 4 years to finally clean up our mess. And then in 2017, actually 2018, my apologies, when I came back from my deployment, we finished it out. And since then, so since 2018, my financial life has just gone up and up and up. My wife and I, we are both on the same page with everything. But the first thing I try to teach people is get an emergency fund, a starter emergency fund, a buffer between you and life. It's $1,000. If you can have that in your life to prevent you from going further into debt and further into ruts, then you will start making progress towards cleaning up your financial life.
Okay. So the first place to start would be to try and get yourself $1,000 saved up and kind of tucked away.
Yeah. Well, even before that, so let's just go one step before they call it baby step 0, right? Baby step 0 is just to get current, like with your bills, with your whatever you owe money to, right? So let's say you're behind on your rent, behind on your electricity, behind on your credit card payments. The first thing to do is find a way to get current. That's also going to caveat to, once you get current, you got to cover your 4 walls, right? Your 4 walls are your house, your rent, your utilities, your transportation, and some food, right? If you have those 4 things, you can pretty much survive. And then we're going to go to baby step 1, then which is that $1,000 emergency fund. Most people have it lying around. You just got to label it. This is my starter emergency fund.
Okay. Get current. Baby step 0, get current. So you got to get your rent, your utilities, your car, and food settled.
Transportation. Essentially, keep your vehicle running so that you can get to your place of business, so that you can earn the money to pay for your rent, to pay for your food, and to pay for your utilities, right? If you're warm and you're fed and you have ability to get back and forth to your job, you can start making traction.
Okay, so we make sure that we're current, and then we get ourselves our buffer fund.
Mm-hmm.
What do we do next?
All right, man. This is where it's the most controversial, right? You got to pay off all your debt. And it's his method that he uses is called the snowball method. You take your smallest debt that you have. Let's say it's a $100 credit card payment. You will pay that one off first. And then you'll go to your next smallest. But instead of just putting that whatever you're paying on your smallest credit card, you'll use that to pay for your next debt, and then your next debt. And then you'll just keep making your snowball bigger, 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 bigger. And before you know it, you get to your largest debt and you're chunking thousands of dollars potentially at this debt and getting it paid off extremely quick. Now, I want to tell all your listeners that this is not your mortgage. You leave your mortgage out of this. So if you do have a mortgage, you want to put that to the side for now. This is all consumer debt, things like credit cards, car loans, payday lenders, student loans, and whatever else you have that is a mattress payment, things like that. Cell phone payments. That's another one that people forget, is that they're like, oh, I just added it to my bill. No, you actually took out a loan on your phone and you're paying for it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know a lot of people, especially every year when the new iPhone comes dropping or the new Samsung, they just immediately, because most cell phone companies, they offer An upgrade, you just bring in your old phone, they tack the difference onto your bill, and you pay $40 a month for the next 3 years, which you're never going to pay it off because you're just going to upgrade the next year.
You're right.
I feel like a lot of people don't think about that, you know?
Yeah, and it's a game that the companies, they know that you want it, and they make it super easy for you to continue down the path that you're going down. And you don't even realize you're just chunking an extra 40, 60. Let's say you have 5 of those phones on your family plan. That's an extra
$250 to about
$200. Yeah, $300, right? Extra that you're paying a month on that bill.
So what makes the method of pay off all debt so controversial? Because that sounds like it should be, pretty straightforward.
It is, dude, but there's this thing that society likes to preach us, is that we got to have a credit score to live, right? And you have to have a credit score to do stuff in life. The truth is that's total bullcrap. I mean, credit score is an I love debt score. And essentially the 5 components that make up the credit score literally revolves around debt. And there's statistics out there that have proven that the longer you're in debt and the more you want to pay on those debts, the higher your credit will be. There's actually a method out there, which is what Dave teaches and his crew, is there's a no credit score life where you don't even have a credit score because you have no debt. It's called an undetermined credit score, where the company, FICO, and everything that's involved with that can't even determine anything. So they just write off your credit score as null. You just have nothing. It's not a 0. It's just not there. Which is what I have. I don't have a credit score, and my wife doesn't have a credit score, and we haven't had one for years, and we are able to do everything that we want to do as a normal American.
Interesting. That does raise some questions that I have about not having a credit score. So, like you said, right? Society preaches that we should have a credit score. They check it for things like getting apartments. They check it for in this situation, loans and debt, those are things that we don't typically talk about. But if you wanted to buy a house, you got to have a credit score, right?
No, you actually don't. There are methods to getting a house without having a credit score. And the number one way you can do it is called a manual underwriting mortgage loan. Essentially, what the company does is, instead of having a computer do the check for you, they actually physically put pen to paper and look at all your financials and determine that you are eligible to take on this mortgage. Most people who kind of run this plan, they try to get a house with cash. They don't even try to go into the mortgage debt at all.
Damn. I mean, in this day and age with house prices, that sounds almost impossible.
It's ambitious.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I want to encourage your listeners to, and to you, man. It's possible.
Yeah.
It's 100% doable if you mind shift, or you have to think differently. You have to understand that there's a different way than what normal American society teaches you. And there's kind of like what they teach in the Navy, right? Don't just follow the path of least resistance, kind of question it, and then just kind of, as a leader, you're like, wait, is this the only way to do this? No. Oh, we should find a better way to do it.
That makes sense. You got to think outside the box if you want to get anywhere.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the paying off debt conversation. So with the idea of snowball method, are we talking like, okay, let's say a person has 4 consumer debt payments that they have to make a month, right?
Yep.
I don't know how hypothetical we should get here. Should I include numbers or not? But let's just say they have...
Let's use 0 or 5 numbers, right? Those are the most easy ones to understand.
Okay, so let's say somebody has a credit card, $5,000. Another credit card, $5,000. A loan for $10,000.
Yeah.
And then a car loan for $20,000.
All right.
Judging based off of the numbers I just gave you, we're talking probably a $250 payment, another $250 depending on your APR.
Yeah.
The other payment is probably closer to like $360.
Sure.
And then your car payment is probably like, let's just do $420.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's fun. So this is what you're looking at for monthly payments.
Yeah.
How would you handle this with your snowball method?
All right. So let me add these up real quick. So all that combined, right, is $1,300 coming out of your paycheck that you work so hard for, right?
Oh yeah.
To go to
yeah.
other people. Imagine you have to have a mental mind shift. Imagine me coming into your house and saying, dude, you owe me $250. And I come to your house every month and I want it right then and there. You would probably be a little pissed at some point. You'd be like, I'm done with this. I do not want to owe this guy anything, right?
Oh yeah.
Credit card companies and consumer companies want you to do is they don't want you to think about this. They want to automatically just take it out of your account. So it's just like, oh, what? Another 250 just came out. Oh, well, right? So you have to have a behavior shift, right? So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to get sick of it. You're going to get sick and tired of this loan hanging around. And you're going to look at that 250 and you're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to find whatever I can in my budget to pay extra on this 250. So let's say the first month you're like, oh, I suck at making budgets and whatever. You can't find that extra 250. You're just going to pay the minimum payments, right? You're just going to do 250, 250, 360, 420. And then when you set up your budget, you might find that you can cut back on a little bit of food. Maybe don't go out to eat at all, right? For the whole month. Maybe you suspend your Netflix account, right? And you find an extra $300 in your budget. You're going to take that 300. You're going to put it right at that first loan, which is 5,000. It doesn't matter which one's which because they're both 5,000. So you can pick. I'm tired of this company and I want to get them out of my life, so I'm going to pay them an extra $300. So let's say as time goes on, you get that first 5,000 taken out and you have that 250, right? So you're going to combine that 250 with the other 250. Now it's going to be 500. So that second loan, you're going to be putting a minimum of a 500. But remember, you've already found an extra 300. So now you're actually putting 800 towards that second 5,000, right? You're going to get that paid off way faster than your first one because you're combining everything. So let's say that 500. Let's say you pay off those two $5,000 loans, and now you're onto your 10,000 loan. And it should be a little bit lower because you're paying the minimum payments on it regardless, right? So now you're going to take that 500, you're going to add it. It's going to be 860 now. So you're putting 860 towards your $10,000 loan.
Plus that 300 you found.
Yeah, plus the 300 you found, right? So now you're putting 8, 9, 10, 11, 1160 towards that $10,000 loan, okay? That's probably going to take you less than 10 months to pay that $10,000 loan off. Maybe even 5 months, depending on, because by this time you're probably really into getting this debt out of your life, right? So you might have even found more money. And then let's take all that, right? You pay off that $10,000 loan. Now you're onto your car, right? It's going to be a little bit lower than 20,000 by this point anyways. So you're going to take that 11, or let's say your 860 initially, right? Because those are your minimum payments. You're going to add it. It's going to be 1,300 plus the 300. So that's $1,600 each month you're putting towards that car loan. And not putting it back into your life, because you cannot stray from this. You have to put it towards that loan. And then voila, you pay off the car. Let's say it takes you 12 months to pay off the car, or maybe even less. So now you have zero consumer debt. Now you have just increased your income by a minimum $1,300 a month. And that's going all back into your bank. And then probably during all this time, you've made rank, you've gotten a promotion, your spouse is probably working a job, or you've gotten some bonus money, right? So you might even have more money coming in at this point, in addition to this $1,300 that you have just found now.
All of that sounds simple, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I do want to point out too, based off of everything you're telling me, this is not a simple fix. This is a over time kind of thing. The amount of time that we're talking in order to pay off that $40,000 that we just randomly threw out there.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be a year and a half, almost 2 years, maybe.
You're right. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that is once people want to get this out of their life, that is about the average that it takes them. 18 to 24 months with this plan is statistical average of people getting out of their debt. And this is all based, and we didn't throw out income. Like, we didn't know what this individual, in this scenario, we don't know what the person's making or during our scenario. So let's say they're making 50,000. It might take them a little bit longer. Let's say they're making 200,000. This could literally take them 4 months to clean up. So it's kind of all based on the income and how much you're willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what do you do after you pay down all your debt? Do you just pocket your money and go live your life, or do you maintain the strict budget?
No, that's where we go to the next step, right? This is called baby step 3. Not only are you on a budget, Now you have all the debt out of your life. You still have to remain intense during baby step 3. It's called 3 to 6 months of fully funded emergency fund. This is your humongous barrier between life, between an emergency and your paycheck and going back into debt. So this is a number that you have to determine between you and your spouse, or just you individually, right? If you're single, to decide how much do I need to live off of for 3 to 6 months if life kicks me in the teeth and I lose my job, I injure somebody and now I can't work, or I have a sick spouse or a sick kid and I can't do anything, right? Like these are things that are going to, these 6 months are going to set you up so that you can get your life back on track, right? Without going back into debt.
That makes sense. And now I know there's a lot of numbers out there about how much money it would take the average American to survive off for about 6 months. Based off of the numbers I've seen for some places, like some of the cheaper states to live in, I think the cheapest state I found was West Virginia, funny enough, where I'm from. And I think it's closer to about 45-ish a year for a person to live. That includes mortgage, utilities, and everything.
Yeah.
And this is just a straight question. If the average cost of living for the state of West Virginia for 12 months is about $45,000, does that mean that my fully funded emergency fund needs to be half of that, like $22,500?
Well, it depends. If you are in a true emergency, Tim, you have to look at your life and you're saying, we're in a storm right now. We do not need to be having cable, or we just need to cover our 4 walls at this point because you're in crisis mode. And it's not something that you want to stay in because you're going to be doing everything possible to get out of crisis mode, right? Whether it be getting a new job or finding a way to pay for the medical bills, or let's say you injured somebody or you're injured, right? Getting your workman's comp claim filed so that you can get that workman's comp claim, right? Things like that. This is not something you're willing to stay in. So 22,000 might seem a little high, but on average, roughly between 12 to 15,000 is a good number for an emergency fund. But if you live in California, your number is going to be astronomically higher because obviously the cost of living is higher. But in West Virginia, you might be able to get by with an emergency fund of $12,000. These are just spitball numbers, so nothing definite.
Of course. And all of this has to be catered to the individual and depending on what they got going on in their life.
Yeah.
But it does make sense that whenever you're focusing in, if you do ever have to reach a point in your life where you need to tap into this fully funded emergency fund, you probably should be cutting the costs of why do you have the highest internet package that you can get when you can, if you need internet, just slim it down to the lowest one. It's going to get you through. Your cell phone, why do you even have an international capabilities on your plan if you don't even travel out of the States?
Exactly. Yeah, those are all things you'll be thinking about. You're making valid points because you have to, during this time, if you're in that mode, you have to think of what can I cut out of my life so that I can get out of this as quick as possible? Because you don't want to stay in an emergency for too long.
Definitely. If you stay in an emergency within that 6-month time frame, like life has probably kicked you pretty hard in the nuts.
Yeah. You're probably going to get some dental surgery because you don't have any teeth anymore.
Yeah, you've been curb stomped a couple times,
Yeah. And sometimes it's out of your control. Like sometimes you really can't predict how long it's going to take you. So that's why it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
I've heard people even having emergency funds for their emergency fund just because it's the type of lifestyle that they want, right? They're like, I'm going to use this fund before I even tap into my emergency fund.
Right.
Because I'm just that nervous,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You accidentally slip and break your glasses, and that's like $600 for a new pair of glasses.
Yeah.
You don't want to dip into your $12,000 emergency fund. Dip into your $3,000 emergency
Flush
fund. And it's like,
Yeah,
hey, I have 15 grand put to the side for emergencies. This 3 I can touch for the more possible emergencies. And that 12 doesn't get touched unless I'm like, I have no car, it's broken down, I have no job, and I lost a toe on my foot or something, and I can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Or my wife because you're married, so and I'm married, right? So your wife gets hurt, right? And now you're like, I have to take time off of work so I can help my wife, right? And now I'm not getting paid because I'm hourly. So now you're like, well, shoot,
Yep.
I need to tap into my emergency fund so that my wife can get better and I can pay the bills,
Yeah. If anything, I think the past couple of years has really shown people that debt and stuff, it piles up fast, especially whenever people were furloughed from work during the COVID crisis.
Yeah.
People started realizing like, oh shit. But with that being said, I think people's debt, like your standard debt, increased during that time period. People were dipping into loans and credit cards and a lot more. I am guilty of that, and I had a paycheck coming to me every month, but I still dipped heavily into my debt.
Yeah. It's really hard to judge, or not even to judge. Let's just say really hard to understand someone's situation individually, right? But when COVID happened and people were furloughed and they weren't getting any money, they realized I was literally one paycheck away from total chaos. And chaos came, and the government said, wait a second, we don't want chaos to come, so we're going to give you money.
We can't afford chaos.
Yeah. And then guess what happened? Those people didn't use that money to pay off their debts that they were accumulating. They used that money to go buy a mattress or a car or a vacation, right? The government was handing out thousands upon thousands of dollars to people for absolutely to sustain them, right? Some people use it to sustain themselves, but other people are like, screw that. I'm just going to go blow this on the casino or the lottery tickets, right? Not working anyways. What's the point?
Yeah, and I do think there is, generalizing it, yeah, I do feel like a lot of people, especially in the military community, because we were still getting paid.
Yeah.
We took that money and we just bought stuff with it. We didn't care. Capitalism won, and we decided to just go to the next and buy a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox, whatever the new one is, Xbox Series X, I think.
Yeah, Series X, yeah, I think. And then guess what? The Navy said, hey, we don't want you at the office anyway, so just go ahead and buy all the games with it too. Why not?
Stay home. Why not? And then, the new graphics cards came in, and the next was selling them for $1,600, which was conveniently about how much we got in one of our checks. That's so funny. So funny to me. How did that happen, right?
How did that happen? And then guess what happened? The next month, a credit card bill came in, and they were like, oh, crap, I can't pay this. Looks like I'm defaulting on this credit card until my next check comes in. Oh, shoot, I have to feed myself. Credit card or food? Credit card can wait. Food.
Food's more important, yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
After you get your no shit emergency fund put together, and we're talking, based off of the person, 12 to 20-ish thousand.
Yeah.
What do you do?
All right.
What's after that? Now do I go balls to the wall and live my life with the monocle and the top hat?
Actually, you do. This is the transition point, right? So the first three steps that I talked about were all intense, very intense, like you're about to lose your life kind of intense, right? You are one step away from getting eaten, that type of intense. Think of the metaphor like a gazelle running away from a cheetah, right? Those first three steps are you're the gazelle and the cheetah's coming after you. So you're doing everything you possibly can to get away from that sucker. All right. The next step is called baby step 4. And this is where you become intentional, not intense. You already have your emergency fund. You have all your debt paid off. You've made a barrier between you and life. Now you're going to start saving. Now you're going to go on the offense. You're going to start saving for your retirement. You're going to start paying off or saving for like kids' college funds if you have kids. If you don't have to do that step. And this is where you're going to start paying off your house early, right? If you have a house. If you're renting, you might be wanting to save for a house. So this is where you can start saving for a house, a down payment or something like that. Baby step 4, 5, and 6, they all kind of go in tandem. Our baby step 4 is 15% of your household income into retirement. Not 10, not 2, not 25, 15. Based on his company's 30 years of experience, he's realized that 15% outpaces inflation, and it also gives you enough leeway into your paycheck to where you can at least have some fun with your money and do other things with it. Baby step 5 is save for kids' college fund, which if you have kids, you're going to start putting some money away. And maybe as a parent, you do have kids and you decide, I'm not paying for my kids' college. That's fine. It's your choice. And then baby step 6 is pay off your house early. And this is where you're going to start being very intentional about how much you're putting towards your mortgage, if you have one. Or let's say you want to save for a mortgage. Now, they call that baby step 3B, where you're kind of chunking away money to get to your down payment of your house. Let's say your goal is $80,000. You put pen to paper. How long is it going to take me to get $80,000 with all this money that I'm making? And then you start being intentional about getting to that point.
All of that sounds very important. I mean, quite clearly, definitely putting money into your retirement, looking for a child's college funds if you have a child or if you want to send them to college, and then paying off the house early. So I think the 15% into your retirement fund is relatively self-explanatory. So what if you do want to save up for your child's college fund? What kind of percentage do they talk about that you should be putting away for something like that?
Sure. This is the hardest one to get people's head around. College is so expensive.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like a line in the sand that constantly moves. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
Oh, hey, you save 50,000? No, tuition's now, 80,000. Sorry. Yeah, it took you a while for your kid to get through. So the number is going to be where you send your kid. If you send your kid to the most pristine college in the entire country and it's $300,000 to do their 4 years, that's your goal, right? So you have to,
holy shit.
You have to put pen to paper and see, how can I get to 300,000, right? If it's a community college and it only costs $2,000 per semester and they only want an associate's degree, I mean, after 4 semesters, that's $8,000. So you got your 8,000 and you're done. For me and my 2 kids that I have, we're saving $2,000 a year per kid, right? That's our number. That's what me and my wife came up with. And we said, this is what we want to save for our kids each year. We're probably not going to get to the number that they want me to have for college, but it's what we can afford right now. And that's where we're intentional about it. So we're putting that money, there's 2 different types of accounts you can put that money into. The first one is called a 529 plan. And the second one is called Coverdell ESA. And then you also have a third one, which is kind of not really used. It's called a custodial UGMA account, Universal Guide to Minors account. It's just pretty much a account you set up for your kid. So the 529 plan varies per state. The Coverdell ESA has like a cap to where you can only put a certain amount of money in there. They all have caps. You just have to go to whichever state you're in and essentially figure out what your state recommends, what your state criteria is, and then what school you want your kid to go to. It's a lot of research. For me and Jennifer, my kids will be almost going to college by the time I get out of the military. So whatever state we decide to settle down in is the school that we're going to put them in, right? They're not going to daggone California or
Yale,
North Carolina,
Stanford,
yeah.
those high prestige upper crust colleges.
And they're also going to earn scholarships, right? And that's another thing that we have to teach our kids as parents when you and your wife decide to have kids, or if you're talking to other people, right? You have to make a decision in your head, like, what effort is my kid going to put in to getting into school? Whether it be like, nope, we're going to fund everything, they don't have to do anything. Or it could be like, no, we're going 50-50. You're paying 50, I'm paying 50. The last thing we want them to do is to think they have to get student loans, right? This plan does not promote loans whatsoever of any kind. Even the mortgage, right? The mortgage is the one they don't yell at you about, but student loans is a $1 trillion crisis in America. So many Americans and people probably around the world have student loan debt, and they have no way to get out of it. They feel so stuck. They come out of school, they're like, I just got a PhD in horse poetry, and I spent $90,000 to get it, and I can't find a job because no one teaches horse poetry,
Yeah.
Or like they're like, I'm a physical therapy, right? They're like, I'm a physical therapist. I paid $150,000 for my degree, but the only job I can get is an entry-level job, and it pays $45,000, but I'm in debt $150,000. Like, we want to avoid that. Even if they put all their income, which they wouldn't be able to live, They would still take them 3 years. So
Yeah.
it's all about being intentional when it comes to the college fund.
So is there any other steps after this?
There's one more step. This is the last step that he teaches, right? This is the best one. This is baby step 7. It's called live and give like nobody else. Baby step 7 is where you have set up all your other baby steps. And this is where you get to have the most fun with money in your entire existence. And this is the step that me and my wife are in right now. We are in baby step 7. We're in the military. So we don't have a house. We have base housing, right? But we have money set aside to where when we're ready to buy a house, we will be able to put money down towards our house as a down payment and pay it off as quickly as possible. When we do get to have a house, we'll go back down to baby step 6. But right now we're in baby step 7. We are intentional about how we spend our money and how we give our money away. And it's so much fun, dude. It's a blast.
A little bit of a fun story here. I have myself and our mutual friend here has decided to get you into Magic the Gathering, which, as many people may or may not know, is a very expensive hobby. You know, there's something phenomenal about purchasing very incredibly expensive pieces of cardboard and slinging spells with friends. But we're having a good time. So
yeah.
But talking about your intentional spending here, I know one thing that you told me is whenever you're purchasing anything related to Magic, because this is a hobby that can get out of hand. If you go crazy, you could easily spend thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah.
And that's, you're talking about purchasing the old cards and stuff, but
yeah,
you don't do that. You set a limit to how much you're willing to spend. And once your collection reaches a certain size, you look to sell as much as you can and then see where you're at, and then you can purchase a little bit more.
Yeah, I haven't been in it as long as you've been, Tim. Your collection is far vast than mine, right? But yeah, I am very intentional, right? To the point where I have recognized, even to myself, that I have to cut back on how much money I'm dumping into this Magic game, right? And I say it as not as a hindrance to my wealth building. I say it as a caution to my wealth building, because like you just mentioned, it can get out of control. And there's no limit to it. I mean, how many Magic cards, Tim, are out there?
Oh God, 30-some thousand.
Yeah, if I can't even imagine the dollar figure it would take to get to that 30,000. And then what, right? You're like, I just dumped all this money into all these expensive cardboard cards and I can't use them all.
Yeah, you just sit there and look at it.
Yeah. So yeah, man, when it comes to baby step 7, and there's limits. Obviously we can't just go all willy-nilly, but I also have freedom to spend that dollar amount that I set each month on Magic without any sort of constraints. It's already pre-planned. So January is coming up, right? So recording this in December. My wife and I have already discussed, financially speaking, what are some expenses that are happening in January. So I have my anniversary, my son's birthday, I'm going on leave, right? So we know those things are coming. They're not going to be a surprise to us. So we have already budgeted, in the word, what we're going to do. So we have already put up our limit, and it's a good limit. It's not like a $20 experience. It could, depending on what you want to do, right? It could be up to $1,000 experience if we wanted it to be, and that's fun. Some people aren't in this stage yet, and they're like probably listening to this and like, well, I'm never going to get there. Yes, you can. You can get there.
I can get open and vulnerable here for a minute with you. I'm really bad with money. I always have been. I've never been trained properly in how to utilize credit. As I get older, I've realized the dumb things I've done, and I always knew that I was doing something stupid. But there was a point in my life when I was really stupid, and there was also a point in my life when I was really depressed. And the only thing that would really keep me going is those little hits of serotonin when I would go to Amazon and click the buy now button. All of this to say, I have racked up a substantial number of debt, and I want to work on it. I really want to get it down, but I'm one of those people that I'm wondering, do I see myself getting out of this debt anytime soon?
Yes, you do. You have to believe first that you can get out of your situation. And then
It can be so crippling to look at that and just be like, man,
it is.
I'm making the minimum payments and I'm barely scraping by, it feels like.
But then does Tim 10 years from now want to be in the exact same situation that he's in today as we're recording this with his money choices?
Oh, absolutely not. My perfect self does not have any debt.
There you go.
My perfect self wants to be like you, where my credit score just says null and I just have my money saved up,
Yep.
ready to buy a house wherever I can. I take in the finances and I don't worry about using a credit card for traveling and things like that.
Yeah, dude. I'm gonna encourage you, Tim. It's possible. It's 100% possible. Not only for you, don't do it alone. You're married. You have to bring your spouse on board.
Yeah.
If you're trying to drag someone through the mud while you're trying to rescue them, it is so much harder than if they were trying to do it with you, right? So first of all, you two have to get on the same page and say, we're going to be done with this life that we're living right now. And it's going to cost us something. You can wander your way into debt, but you can't wander out.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision.
Yeah,
and you got to say, I'm done.
I completely agree. And I've definitely started looking more into resources and things of that nature. And there's a point where it's like, Aaron and I have always talked about, we have a community of people around us. We've been blessed with it. We don't consider ourselves lucky. We make our own luck. And becoming friends with you has been one of those moments in my life where I'm like, I've made my own luck in this situation. I know somebody who's smart with money. I know somebody who knows how to create a budget. I know somebody who has the time, the effort, and the willingness to help me here. All this to say, by the time this episode comes out, which I'm not sure exactly when we're looking to it, chances are you and I have already sat down and created a budget for myself. And we're looking at how we can get my 5-figure debt down with my finances that I have available to me. And honestly, man, like, I'm really, really excited moving forward. I loved hearing everything about your financial plan here. And I took a lot of notes here for obvious reasons. One, I need to make sure I have information about it in the description. And two, I want to use this and take it into myself. You said that this financial plan has some controversy to it, but I don't see anything controversial. I just see a great strategy that people can use.
Exactly.
You know, it's one of those situations where you put the tools in your toolbox so that you can use it. And if you have a better tool, use that.
That's an excellent analogy, right? You wouldn't use a wrench to screw in a screwdriver, or a screw, right? You would use a screwdriver to screw in a screw. So
Yeah.
if this plan has helped millions of people and it's proven to be successful and it's been around for 30 plus years now, I wouldn't see why anyone wouldn't want to try it.
Right.
And the best part about this plan is you can give up anytime if you don't like it. But once you start seeing what you're doing and seeing the progress you're making as a household and in your situation, you're going to be like, why would I want to stop this?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that they talk on their podcast and in their website and even in their class is they say, give it 90 days. If in 90 days you absolutely are miserable and you do not like this plan at all, go back to the way you were living. Just be done with it. But I guarantee you in 90 days, if you're full throttle committed, you're going to see so much progress in your life that you're not going to want to stop. And that's what I encourage you and your listeners when this gets aired to have when or if they decide to check this plan out.
Yeah, man. I completely agree with you. And I'm definitely going to give it a shot after you and I sit down. And again, like I said, right, I am blessed in my life to have somebody in my life who's willing to sit down and help me crunch these numbers that I have going on in my life.
Yeah.
And to our listeners, always be looking, always be learning, and always be trying to find that person, because there is somebody in your life. I guarantee there's somebody in your life that is a financial guru, not the online gurus like the YouTube financial gurus.
Or the TikTokers out there in the world.
Yeah, the finance TikTok, finance YouTube, finance
Instagram Reels.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane out there. And please, for the love of God, don't be like me and go to Wall Street bets thinking that you can become a millionaire. millionaire by betting on some random medical company stock to go up.
GameStop to the moon.
Yeah, man. GameStop, AMC, Bed Bath and Beyond, all those crazy things.
Tim, just to caveat that, what you're mentioning right now is a lot of behavior change. And going back to the very beginning of this, it's all about your behavior shift and education. If you don't know that there's something out there, you don't know, right? Like you said, always be looking. And if you have a question like, how do I get out of debt? I guarantee you, if you type that into YouTube, Dave Ramsey's plan is going to show up probably within the top 20. You're going to see at least one video, and then you can go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So we're kind of reaching the end of our segment here, Matthew. Is there anything that you would want to tell our audience that we haven't gotten the chance to talk about? Are there any books you recommend? Anything like that?
Yeah. Just go to ramseysolutions.com if you want to check out more of what we've been talking about and see it for yourself. There's a class that they offer. It's called Financial Peace University. It's a 9-week class. It can be online or in person. You sign up for it. And yes, unfortunately, you do have to pay money to do the class, which some people think is ridiculous, but it's a business. They got to make money. But the expense isn't too high. And you can also be sponsored into the class. You can have someone sponsor you. And then there's some books, right? I'll just recommend his number one book. It's called Total Money Makeover. It is the one that got me interested in this whole entire plan. And Baby Steps Millionaire is his other book that he has out there that is wildly popular. I want to encourage all my military folks out there who are listening to this that I know us as sailors, we don't get paid that much, but honestly, I believe every sailor, if they are smart with their finances, can become millionaires. I wholeheartedly believe it. I believe you can be rich and also be in the military. So now that's what I got for you and for your listeners.
Well, I love that, Matthew. Thank you so much. And I do agree with you too. I've met sailors who are millionaires, and they've done it through various different ways, methods. Some people, they purchase a lot of like houses and they kind of build their equity like that, but it's definitely possible. No matter if you're an enlisted sailor, officer, or maybe you work a retail job where you work at Walmart or you're a cashier or a salesperson, taking control of your finances is one of the most important things you can do in your life.
Yeah.
And you gotta build those 4 walls: your mental, your physical, your spiritual, and your financial. And I think that's something that I'm definitely going to be taking in and taking away from this, is looking at my financial aspect as something that I need to be strengthening, that I need to be going to the proverbial gym and working that out.
Yeah.
Because God, my finances have been doo-doo since I've been 16, and I decided to buy an $800 guitar, and I had 3 months worth of experience playing guitar.
Yeah.
Why did I buy that? I don't know. I wanted it.
Dude, you sound like if you take the class, you'll kind of figure out what type of person you are. They have spenders, you have savers, and you have the free spirits, and you have the nerds. You definitely sound like a spender. I'm definitely a spender. I love spending money, dude. But I have to spend it wisely, right? And I always look for deals and things like that. So when I do spend my money, which I like to do, I'm intentional about it. And then you have the nerds who are the savers. Sorry, they're like nope, $100. Yeah, we're putting that in the savings account. My wife is a saver, right? If we have extra money in the budget, she's like, just throw it in the savings. It's all good. We have enough.
I think my wife falls under their saver as well.
Yeah.
She's always like, well, just save the money.
Yeah, just save it.
We don't need to buy that. Just save it.
Exactly.
And I love that because, I am a spender. I'm like you, and I need somebody there to kind of crack me back down into reality.
Yes. We'll go wild as spenders if we don't get control.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this on up now, Matthew.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Matthew.
Send this episode to whoever popped into your head while listening.
As always, thank you to Highland Markle for the original music.
All pertinent links can be found in the episode description.
Be good to yourselves.
We hope you all enjoyed this episode
and are taking something away from it.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
See ya.